Hi, and welcome to this plenary session, From Production to Consumption, Solutions for a Circular Economy. I'm Miranda Gorman, Senior Research Fellow for Industry here at Project Drawdown, and I have with me several experts to teach us about various aspects of the circular economy and industry. We at Project Drawdown have investigated the efficacy of a number of solutions related to the circular economy, including alternative materials, waste management, industrial processes, and we've seen a significant potential for climate change reversal. In fact, we identify that 21% of emission sources are directly related to the industry sector. This sector includes solutions related to improving global circularity from a number of different approaches, such as production of materials from alternative feedstocks instead of extractable non-renewable resources, as well as responsible waste management that prevents the loss of material resources to landfills or dumps, as well, and including improvement of industrial process efficiencies. Currently, all of Project Drawdown's industry solutions fall into three clusters: using waste, addressing refrigerants, and improving materials. All of these activities contribute to a more robust circular economy and move society farther away from a linear extract, consume, dispose model. I'm going to share with you some more information about our latest results from the Drawdown review released earlier in 2020, as well as some of our upcoming work. Before I do that, though, I want to introduce my panel of experts who can give us some more information about the widespread benefits and implications of circular economy solutions. Yoni is here, who leads Systemic's global modeling efforts of ocean plastic leakage and their findings regarding the plastic circular economy. Silpa Kaza from the World Bank, who is the lead author of the What a Waste report on the state of waste management and opportunities globally. Sinorpe from Penn State is here to talk about specific applications of agricultural waste and opportunities for circularity there, as well as Maxime and Durwood from IGSD to talk about their work in refrigerants.
So I'm Maxime Beaugrand, a French lawyer for the Institute for Governance and Sustainable Development, IGSD, for which I've opened the Paris office. And I'm joined by Durwood Zalki, president of IGSD. So Durwood, tell me a bit more about the science behind the climate emergency.
Thank you, Maxime. The best scientists who focus on the climate emergency, such as Tim Lenton at Exeter University, tell us we have between 0 and 10 years to slam on the brakes of warming. Otherwise, the self-reinforcing feedbacks will take over. The Earth will warm itself beyond human ability to control the climate and will pass potentially irreversible and potentially catastrophic tipping points. An illustration of the feedbacks is what's happening in the Arctic. The Arctic is warming at 3 to 4 times the global average right now, and that's causing the melting of the land-based snow and the sea ice that floats on the Arctic Ocean. And as we lose that great white shield that now sends incoming solar radiation safely back to space, we will let it enter into the darker ocean and land and accelerate the warming in the Arctic further. When that happens, it'll melt even more of the ice, and that'll cause even more warming. That cycle of feedback loops will also start melting permafrost. It's already melting, but it'll accelerate the melting of permafrost, which stands for permanent frost. It's no longer permanent, it's melting. And when it melts, it releases ancient stores of carbon dioxide, N2O, and methane, 3 powerful climate forcers or climate pollutants that further accelerate warming. So it's another feedback loop. It starts a wicked cascade that goes throughout the entire climate system of the planet. Another illustration would be the Amazon forest. So we've destroyed right now about 17% of the Amazon through burning, through cutting, for agriculture principally. And when we lose somewhere between 20 and 25%, lose is not the term, but destroy, what will happen is that the Amazon itself will warm enough to destroy the remainder 80 to 75 to 80%. So this is again what happens when a feedback loop takes over. When you lose the rest of the Amazon, you lose each incremental piece, causes more warming, you lose more warming, you lose more until it's gone. And because the Amazon regulates so much of the weather of the entire South American continent, you're going to have droughts throughout and floods in other places, and it's going to be hell on food production. And it's going to be another one of those tipping points that the world may not be able to survive. So we have, as I said, somewhere between 0 and 10 years. Let's think of it as a 10-year sprint to 2030 that we must win on the way to 2050. In this sense, 2030 becomes the new 2050. You've heard a lot about the 2050 goal, net zero emissions, very important. The world's doing a pretty good job committing politically to that distant goal, 30 years hence. But if we don't win the 10-year sprint, it won't matter what the 2050 goal is, because we won't be in the race after that 10 years if we lose control because of the feedbacks.
Well, yes, pretty clear. Thank you. And we know who are the sprinters. So the sprinters are the so-called short-lived climate pollutants, methane, black carbon, tropospheric ozone, and the refrigerants HFCs. We know that if we cut the super climate pollutants, short-lived climate pollutants, we could avoid 2 to 6 times more warming than just cutting CO2. We also know through the IPCC 1.5 report what we need to do. So to zoom in on the HFCs, the parties to the Montreal Protocol adopted in 2016 the Kigali Amendment. Through this amendment, we could avoid 0.5 degree of warming towards the end of the century by phasing down HFCs. But this is only part of the problem. We also need to look into improving the energy efficiency of the cooling equipment. And by doing so, we could all double the climate benefits of the Kigali Amendment. So we need to look into the right metric, the metric to select the right alternative refrigerants. And this metric is the life cycle climate performance metric. There's the right one to choose the alternative and the technologies on the refrigerant front and in the cooling sector. So we have a pathway, we have the sprinters, we know where they are, we know what to do. And I think that you can join me in concluding that the whole climate community needs to engage with this new rhythm, the need for speed. This is the only way we can safely get to 2030, right?
You know, Maxime, you're absolutely right. The world's leaders do not yet fully comprehend what the climate emergency is really about. The youth movement does understand this. Groups like the Extinction Rebellion, they understand it. A group of scientists understand it. But it is potentially catastrophic for civilization. We enter the hothouse Earth that the climate scientists have predicted. So yes, it's absolutely essential to focus on winning the 10-year sprint. If we win that sprint with the short-lived climate pollutants, as you just articulated, cutting the HFCs through the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol, cutting methane, maybe we need a new methane treaty. That's a possibility, but we have to cut methane aggressively as well from oil and gas sector, from landfills, and from agricultural sector. And then black carbon and tropospheric ozone. Black carbon is an air pollutant, and the world should be cutting this for health reasons alone. It's also associated strongly with higher death rate from COVID-19. If you are unfortunately living in a highly air polluted area, you will be more likely to die from COVID-19. You also, I know you're based in London at the moment, and in London we just had the coroner declare the death of this 9-year-old girl to be significantly caused by air pollution. So, I mean, we are literally killing people. The World Health Organization says about 7 million people a year. So that should be sufficient motivation. It's not, but it should be for taking care of the black carbon. So when the world finally understands the true emergency, then they're going to turn to these fast mitigation measures. They're going to put the sprinter into the race. And if we win that, as we can, in the 10-year sprint to 2030, then we're going to have a chance to make it to 2050 and the net zero emissions.
Great. Well, I think, there's a need for speed, as we've said before. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you, Maxime.
Thank you so much to all of our expert speakers. It's really exciting to hear more about the cutting edge work being done in all of these areas. It's really clear to me that our current linear economy needs a lot of improvement in a vast range of areas. We're thrilled to be able to hear from people doing that work who can highlight the importance of commitments to a circular economy.